The first lessons given in our educational institutions are like this. I'll translate it into English. We have them in Sanskrit and other languages. I'll write down in English. In our institution, which we call our home, Matru Devo Bhava. Matru means mother. Deva means the light. The whole meaning is this. And then the second lesson is the same thing. Pitra Devo Bhava. Pitra means father. Practice seeing the light in your father. And then in your teacher. Acharya Devo Bhava. Acharya means teacher. And then in the guest. Atithi Devo Bhava. Atithi means the guest who comes to your house. These are the 4 sentences explained by the grandfathers to the grandsons. And we are made to repeat them before we go to bed daily. And to the parent, there are the catchwords for real education. This is one sentence. The I am of you are, that is you are your own son. That means the I am means the soul which you are in yourself, because we can't express the soul in terms of third person. If at all we have a proper education of what soul is. You can't say, I have a soul. You should say, I am a soul and I have a body. If anyone says, I have a soul, it must be some other soul that is at the bottom of your shoe. But the real soul, which is different from this, you can't say, I have a soul. You should say, I am a soul and I have a body. That's the reason the sentence is given like that. In Sanskrit, they say, Atma vai putra namasi. Atma means I am. Putra namasi means in the name of your child. You need not repeat these Sanskrit words. And another catchword for the parent is, you are born through generations from body to body. That means you are born as your father, and from the body of your father you are born as yourself. You will be born as your son. So these 2 sentences are expected to be repeated daily by every householder from the date of begetting his child. And also there is a small ritual conducted by the father when the child is born. Before the umbilical cord is cut to the child, the father feeds the child 3 times with milk. He places his finger in milk and on the tongue of the child 3 times. And the child says like that. And then he puts his finger in honey and puts it on the tongue of the child 3 times. Only when he sees that the child responds to the taste, then the doctor cuts the umbilical cord. You know why? Sometimes the child dies if the umbilical cord is cut premature. It is the process of bringing the life impulse established in the body because the tongue is the first passage to bring down the life impulse to establish in the body. And then the father repeats this. And from that day onwards, in his daily rituals in the morning, the father is expected to repeat this as long as the father lives. And when the son is married and he begets a child, on that day, if the father is alive, the father initiates the son to repeat this. Like that, these are the first catchwords of real education in any traditional family of ancient nations and races. Not only in India, but also in every ancient nation, these things were existing in their own language. And then the child is made to work along with the parents in the house. And while working, the father trains the child in oral education. We make him repeat what we utter, including the mantrams of the Vedic texts and the scriptures. And we make them repeat the meanings and the significance also. And that is why every child among our families knows all these things, including the Vedic hymn Purusha Sukta, about which we had classes till today evening here. If by any chance next year my son or Kumar's son happens to be here, you will be surprised to receive the same lessons from them because it has become automatic with them. This doesn't in any way hinder the fellow to have the literacy in the schools. And my father never sent any one of our brothers to any school or college. He taught us the sciences of Ayurveda and the ancient sciences, and the science of yoga, the practice of meditation, how to receive people into the house, how to go to distant places independently, how to get our own things done without the help of the elders. In total, he has given us what we call the dynamism and self-confidence, which made us understand that the spirit of competition is not at all necessary for us to live in this world. And also that wherever there is the spirit of competition, there is timidity and misery of living. And I am nearing my 60s of age. I find no reason why I should change my beliefs till today. Because I realize the truth of what I have learned day by day more and more. This is what we are taught to be the real education in its true sense. To learn how to decide for oneself. To learn to choose for oneself. The capacity to choose the desirable and the capacity to reject that which is not desirable, and the dynamism enough not to be enforced by anyone into anything. If I do something wrong, I do it as my own decision and choice. But no one can force me or condition me to do something good or bad. It is said in one of the ancient scriptures that education is not bringing a lamp near an article to enlighten it, but it is the process of one lamp lighting another. It's not to find a candle in the light of another candle, but it is the process of the kindled candle kindling a second candle, so that the second candle can use its own wax for its own enlightenment, so that there is no necessity for borrowed wax from other candles. That is how the Sanskrit quotation goes when expressed in English. So, education is illumination. And as I said, it is not infection of our own beliefs into others, or it's not injection of the information into the brains of others, or the brainwashing to make the fellow a foreigner to his own family members. But it is a process of induction by which a magnet makes another magnet, even without the need of a direct touch sometimes. See how a piece of iron behaves like a magnet in the proximity of a magnet. What is it that is influencing the iron piece from the magnet? Through this space which appears to our naked eye empty. It is what is called in Sanskrit presence. Presence does not mean a physical phenomenon. Presence is something magnetic. You can be in Geneva, your son may be in New York. You can educate your son through a period of 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, you can see your son educated by you. That is how the masters educate us. You know that the masters do not expect us to go to their places physically. Leaving our own parents or wife and children, staying in their ashrams for 2 or 3 years physically, to learn something in the name of spiritualism or religion. But instead, they show us how there is one university going on through centuries and centuries. How that one university exists in all the countries of the globe. How the teachers of that university are always at work across the centuries, and how we can be pupils to those professors and be the registered students of that one university. How the teaching is imparted to us when we are in our own places. How we can go on with our work and domestic duties, our profession, and our daily routine without being disturbed. At the same time, receiving our education from a magnet that exists somewhere in America or India. Receiving our education from a magnet that exists somewhere in America or India. The presence working just as the magnet works through the gap of space upon another piece of iron. And in what way we can have other little pieces of iron in our house and iron dust particles in the house in the name of the other members of our family and those who are working with us as our colleagues and friends can receive the same presence through us and also begin their resonance to the same magnetic waves. and themselves going home and doing the same at their homes. This is how this one university is built. This is how this one university is going on through centuries and centuries. How it has its own network and modus operandi of the educational system. How the various political and religious movements could not influence this one university. How the ravages of time could not have any influences against the existence of this one university. How the changes of the various languages through centuries is not proved a barrier for this university to teach, and how the various pupils who have grown learned in this university work as magnets. We know their names, but we don't know that they are the members of this university. You know Plato, but you do not know that he belongs to this one university. The inner government of the world. And you know Pythagoras, who was highly enlightened. You know Vyasa, who composed the books of ancient wisdom, made them into beautiful books 5,000 years ago, and prepared wonderful magnets like himself. Mainly 5 of his disciples, each disciple working as a powerful magnet of a group of disciples. And you know how a great disciple named Maru lived 5,000 years ago. How he remembers himself and the continuity of his work till today through his births and rebirths. He just leaves his physical body when it has become old, and he takes up his work as soon as he is just ready in the next physical body. And he is continuing his work like this through 5,000 years till today. He is the same one whom we called Master Moria. And there is another of his colleagues whose name was Devapi, who is also continuously doing his work through 5,000 years, and whom we called Kuthumi Lal Singh in the 20th century. And in short, Kuthumi, Master Kuthumi. How Master B.K. received his education for the first time 5,000 years ago from both of these masters. And how these two masters, Manu and Devapi, received their education from their own master who was called Maitreya, who was then only a disciple, just became a master. He was then a disciple of his master called Parasara. And this Parasara is the father of Vyasa. And later on, this Maitreya became the Bodhisattva or the world teacher, whom we call the Christ, who spoke through the Master Jesus, and whom Jesus called my Father in heaven, and whom also Jesus called the voice of the wilderness. And there are thousands and thousands of disciples who exist on this earth. And they need not go to any one ashram. They are expected to conduct their duties towards the family and the society and receive their education from one of these masters. How, you can ask? It is called, yes, it is a scientific process which is called the method of impression. I think you have known some leading points about this highly scientific method in one of the books of Master Jugalpur. If you read the book Education in the New Age and also the externalization of the hierarchy and also the science of building the Antakarana, you will know how this method is used as the teaching method by those masters. It is what I called the method of induction, the magnetic way of influencing a disciple, not to infect him, not to inject into him something, or not to give him a political brainwash against his own family, but to induce him into his own practical ways of doing things, to induce him into his own life, which is the I am of himself. And you know how they do it. Any one of us can be very easily the pupils and in that one university. No one has any limitations of nation, race, or financial status. We can have an entrance into that institution without any formalities or big initiation fee. You need not give any dinners to your friends on the date of your initiation.
Des banquets pour vos amis le jour de votre initiation.
Jupiler or the bar to celebrate the holy function of initiation. Just it is a silent process. The only thing you are asked is to offer yourself up in the mind to your unknown master. Just a few minutes before you go to sleep. And during this sleep, the presence is given for the first time. And the contact is made stronger and stronger daily. You can ask, why not during our awakened state, why in sleep? It is because there should be no resistance for the presence that is coming to us. And without a certain amount of practice, we can't have a mental state without resistance. And the only occasion when resistance is absent in our life is when we are sleeping. Because while sleeping, we are not sleeping, but the instrument we use are sleeping. That is the mind and the senses. But since we unscientifically identify ourselves with our instruments, we are still in the primitive state of believing that we sleep. That is quite unscientific. We never sleep because we are lights shining through matter. Had we slept any day really, we had no opportunity of our respiration and the heartbeat going on during sleep. And long ago, on the very first night of first sleep, somebody might have thrown us into tombs because we can never return into the awakened state. So the scientific fact is we never sleep. Sleep is not to us but to the instruments we use. That is the mind and the senses. That is the mind and the senses. And the activity of the mind which we call intelligence. Unfortunately, many intelligent people identify themselves with their own intelligence. It is in no way better than identifying the soul with the sole of the shoe. And when once we begin to offer ourselves really to one of the masters whom we do not know yet, we will get the contact this same night. That does not know, we come to know of the contact. If we come to know the contact before we have any fitness of receiving their education, it is a big disturbance and a nuisance to those professors and teachers who want to teach us. Because we have many things to ask them. And we will be present before them with all of our foul thoughts and demands and questions. And instead of ourselves getting the enlightenment from them, we will be able to convert those masters also into psychosomatics and neurotics. And within 2 or 3 days, they too begin suffer from insomnia. That's why the masters have their own gateways from them to us, which permit only one-way traffic. That is, they send their presence to us and make a continuous contact through us during sleep, and they never allow us to send our dirty presence towards them. Then we can ask, how can we know that they exist? Then they ask, what do we get when you know, if you know that we exist? And what do we lose if you do not know that we exist? That is their question for which we have no answer. Because we are in a state to receive something from them, and they do not expect anything of us. When we expect something of them, it is immaterial for them if we know that they exist or not. So they go on continuously working with us by giving us their presence. Of course, they need not give us their direct presence. What happens if Master Moria has to give his direct presence to 10,000 disciples the same night? The presence will be like this. There is a magnet who has a pole M instead of N. Instead of North Pole, we have the Moria pole. It has 7 magnets working through his presence. And each magnet has 7 magnets working through the presence. And each magnet has 7 magnets working through the presence. You can ask, is it the same wisdom and teaching which the Moria has that we receive from our bed? The question is as foolish as it is unscientific. Because can you believe if you say magnetism is diluted when it comes to the last iron piece? If magnetism can be diluted, then the presence and the teaching of the Master Moria can be diluted. It cannot be distorted by one of these people. Or they cannot play counterfeit in between Moria and ourselves. They are not political in their idea to give their own slogans of their own parties.